All right, ready to dive into something pretty magnificent.
Always. Where are we headed this time?
This time it's the Mughal Empire.
Ah, the Mughals.
But, and here's the twist, we're not getting bogged down in battles and conquests. Not today.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the focus?
We're talking art, poetry, architecture.
The whole cultural explosion.
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in the politics and warfare.
Right.
But the Mughals, from like the 1500s to the mid-1800s, they fostered this incredible cultural scene.
And it's left behind a legacy that's still so visible today.
Absolutely. So our deep dive today is all about uncovering what made this flowering of creativity possible. We'll be looking at what innovations they brought to painting, poetry, architecture.
And how those things continue to impact India's cultural heritage even now.
Right. And to help us piece it all together, we've got a great mix of sources.
Lay them on me.
Of course, we've got our trustee, A Concise History of Modern India, to give us the historical context.
It's always a good starting point.
But then we'll be getting visual with Architecture of Mughal India.
Oh, I love that book. Those images are just incredible.
Plus, and this is where I think it gets really interesting, we'll be dipping into the memoirs of some of the Mughal emperors themselves.
Oh, yeah. Like Babur, the founder of the dynasty.
Jahangir, those first-hand accounts can really bring things to life.
You're telling me, I mean, it's one thing to read about a palace or a garden.
Yeah.
It's another thing entirely to get a sense of the personality behind it.
Right. What were their passions? What drove their artistic choices?
Exactly. Those memoirs often give us a glimpse into those personal motivations.
So it's less about just cataloging what they built and more about understanding why they built it.
100%. I mean, think about it. You don't just erect a magnificent palace simply to have a roof over your head.
Right.
There's got to be more to it.
Right.
And with the Mughals, there always was. These buildings were statements of power, expressions of faith.
Oh, yeah. Those massive mosques.
And sometimes even love letters to a deceased spouse, as we'll see with the Taj Mahal.
Oh, can't wait to get to that one.
That's
too.
a whole other level of architectural dedication.
So, to kick things off, let's talk about the folks calling the shots. The Mughal dynasty itself.
The power players.
Our history book, A Concise History of Modern India, highlights figures like Akbar, Jahangir, and Shah Jahan.
Big names. Each one left their own unique mark on the empire.
And they weren't just rulers, they were serious art enthusiasts.
Patronage is the key word here. These emperors didn't just collect art, they actively commissioned it.
They set the trends.
They debated artistic choices with the creators. Imagine having the emperor critique your brushstrokes.
Talk about pressure.
It must have been both terrifying and inspiring.
Absolutely. But that kind of imperial attention must have attracted some serious talent to the Mughal court.
Oh, absolutely. Think of it like a magnet met. The Mughals offered not just money,
Right.
prestige. To have your work in the royal collection.
That was the ultimate validation.
Exactly. And this wasn't just limited to folks from within the empire either.
Oh, that's right. The Mughal court was really cosmopolitan, wasn't it?
It was a melting pot of cultures and ideas. We see Persian influences, obviously,
Court?
but also artists coming from Central Asia,
Wow.
even Europe later on. That mix of ideas, that's what gives Mughal art its unique flavor.
It's almost like that age-old recipe for success. Take talented people from diverse backgrounds, give them resources and a bit of competition.
Boom. Creative magic.
And nowhere is that magic more evident than in Mughal miniature painting.
Oh, those tiny, intricate masterpieces.
And they're not just pretty pictures, they're windows into the Mughal world. Court life, historical events, even the emperor's personal tastes. Speaking of personal taste, our Architecture of Mughal India book has this incredible description of Mughal miniatures. They were so vibrant and incredibly detailed.
Oh, yeah. The level of detail in those paintings is just mind-blowing.
It even mentions one emperor being obsessed with those details.
Jahangir. Oh, Jahangir was notorious for that. His memoirs even talk about how he could spot a single brushstroke out of place.
Wow.
But it wasn't just about technical perfection, though he definitely appreciated that. He pushed artists to capture not just the likeness of their subjects, but their essence, you know? He even had artists create incredibly detailed studies of flowers, animals, like a scientific record alongside the art.
Wow.
So it was beauty and knowledge going hand in hand.
But you mentioned these paintings weren't just for decoration. There was a purpose beyond just aesthetics.
Right. They were multi-purpose tools. They documented courtly life, almost like a photographic record. They could be used for propaganda, showcasing the emperor's power, piety, and Some were deeply personal, like illustrations for beloved poems or love tokens exchanged between members of the court.
So each painting had this hidden layer, a story beyond what you see at first glance.
Exactly. And those stories often show that fascinating blend of cultures I mentioned. For example, early Mughal miniatures often depict architecture that's very traditionally Indian, using pillars and beams, what we call trabeated construction.
So basically, the building style you'd find in, say, a Hindu temple of that era.
Precisely. But but as the Mughal Empire evolves, those paintings start incorporating more Islamic architectural features, like vaulted ceilings and elaborate domes. It's a subtle but a significant shift in the visual language.
It's like watching the empire's architectural style evolve in real time just by looking at these miniatures.
And this blending of styles isn't limited to paintings. It's beautifully reflected in Mughal gardens, which were designed to be much more than just pretty spaces.
Yeah, the gardens seem to get a lot of attention in our sources. Babur, the first Mughal emperor, actually mentions one particular garden in his memoirs, Rambagh in Agra.
Rambagh, originally known as the Garden of Victory. It's an excellent early example of Mughal garden design. Think terraced layouts, flowing water channels, pools reflecting the sky, all arranged with this geometric precision.
Sounds beautiful.
Oh, it is, but it was also symbolic.
Symbolic. In what way?
Mughal gardens weren't just about beauty, they were meant to evoke paradise on earth. The four quadrants, divided by water, symbolized the four rivers of paradise mentioned in the Quran. And those lush plants, the fragrant flowers, all meant to create a sensory experience that transcended the everyday.
So it's like stepping into a garden, but you're also stepping into a philosophical concept, a whole worldview.
That's a great way to put it. And these gardens weren't just for solitary contemplation either. Babur, in his memoirs, mentions holding court and entertaining guests in his gardens.
Really? So important matters of state being decided amidst the flowers and fountains.
Exactly. Imagine that. Discussing treaties and alliances surrounded by the scent of roses and the sound of flowing water.
It's almost like a power move.
It is a subtle way of saying, I'm in control, but I'm also cultured.
Well played, Mughals, well played.
And speaking of culture, let's shift gears to another major aspect of the Mughal era, the written word. The Mughal court, it was a hub for poets, writers, scholars. Persian, the language of administration, flourished alongside regional languages like Hindi and Urdu.
So it's not just the sound of chisels on marble and the rustle of silk robes. There's also the scratching of quills on parchment. Lively debates in the libraries versus being recited in those gorgeous gardens we talked about.
Absolutely. It was a time of incredible intellectual ferment. And this wasn't limited to just dry historical records. We see new literary forms developing like the ghazal, these beautiful lyrical poems often dealing with themes of love, longing, the spiritual search.
And when we talk about ghazals, we can't forget the legendary Mirza Ghalib. Even today, his verses are still so celebrated for their depth, their wordplay.
Ghalib was a master. He lived during the later Mughal period, when the empire was already in decline. But his poetry captures this sense of melancholy, the fleeting nature of beauty and power. It really resonates even today.
So it's like even in its twilight years, the Mughal era was still producing incredibly powerful works of art, literature.
Exactly. It's a reminder that even as empires crumble, the human spirit, that desire to create and express, endures. And that's something worth diving deeper into, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Ready for round two?
Always. What's next on our Mughal adventure?
Well, last time we got a taste of the Mughals' cultural landscape, but now I think it's time to, well...
Zoom in a little.
Exactly. Remember those Mughal miniature paintings we mentioned?
Oh, yeah, those incredible tiny masterpieces, packed with so much detail.
It's time to really appreciate their artistry, their symbolism.
Sounds good to me.
So, I guess before we get totally lost in those details.
They should probably do a quick Mughal Miniatures 101.
Exactly. What are we actually looking at when we talk about these things? All right, so picture this. A painting. On paper, sometimes silk. Done with these incredibly fine brushes, vibrant pigments, and often highlighted with gold, which adds this incredible richness and shimmer.
Oh, I was reading an architecture of Mughal India about how they used brushes made with a single hair. Like, I can barely sign my name legibly, let alone paint with that kind of precision.
Yeah, it's just mind-blowing, that precision. It's what allows them to capture everything, From the delicate embroidery on a courtier's robe to the individual petals on a flower.
It's really something else. And then there are those colors, so vibrant, even after all these centuries.
Right, like those colors are still vibrating with life. They used pigments derived from minerals, plants, sometimes even crushed insects.
The insects.
Yeah, it created this luminous quality that's hard to replicate. But as much as I could geek out over the technique, I'm really more interested in the stories they're telling. What were the artists depicting? What kind of scenes?
Yeah, like what were they choosing to immortalize in these miniatures?
Well, there was a real range. You have portraits of emperors and nobles, of course, but also scenes of courtly life, battles, hunts, religious stories,
Oh, wow.
even illustrations from literature.
So each painting offers a glimpse into the Mughal world, its values, its interests, its obsessions.
Absolutely. It's more than just royal propaganda, though there was certainly some of that as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, I can't help but think of those portraits as a kind of, well,
Like the Mughal version of a curated Instagram feed.
exactly, except way more artistic.
For sure. But, even those portraits, they weren't just about capturing a likeness. Every detail, from the posture to the clothing, the objects surrounding the person, it was carefully chosen to project a certain image.
So every brushstroke was conveying a message.
Right. And then you have those scenes of courtly life. Musicians playing, dancers twirling, courtiers playing chess or having these intellectual discussions. It gives you a sense of the Mughal court as this bustling, sophisticated center where art and culture were just woven into everyday life.
And I bet those gardens we talked about earlier made quite a few appearances too, right?
Of course, Mughal miniatures often depict gardens in such exquisite detail. You see the symmetrical layouts, the fountains, those flowering trees. It's like holding a tiny, portable paradise in your hand. And sometimes those gardens would be the backdrop for scenes of romance or even religious contemplation, adding another layer of meaning to the image.
So these miniatures really are like little puzzle boxes. The more you look, the more you discover. But thinking about those early miniatures with the gardens, it makes me wonder, how did this whole tradition even begin? Where did it come from?
It's really interesting, actually. It's a blend of influences. You see, when Babur, the founder of the Mughal dynasty, arrived in India, he brought with him Persian artists who were already skilled in miniature painting.
So that Persian style was like the seed that then grew into something new, something distinctly Mughal on Indian soil.
Exactly. And those Persian artists ended up training local Indian artists. And, well, gradually, this unique Mughal style emerged, a fusion of those Persian techniques with Indian themes and aesthetics.
A beautiful hybrid.
It really is. And I imagine each emperor had their own preferences, their own way of shaping this artistic tradition, right?
Well, I'm sure. Like, they weren't just passive patrons.
Absolutely not. Each ruler had his own tastes, his own interests, and you see that reflected in the art produced during their reign. Like take Akbar, for example, who was a bit of a history buff, loved realism. So during his time, you see a lot of miniatures depicting historical events, scenes from his own life, and they're incredibly detailed. Every person, the setting, just incredibly meticulous.
So it's almost like he wanted to document his reign for posterity, but in a way that was both informative and beautiful.
Exactly. And then you have Jahangir, who we already know was obsessed with detail, and he had this deep fascination with the natural world. So during his time, you see this incredible flourishing of nature-themed miniatures, birds, flowers, animals, all painted with astonishing accuracy.
So almost like those artists were the Mughal version of wildlife photographers, capturing those fleeting moments of beauty in nature. And what about Shah Jahan? Did he have a favorite theme?
Well, Shah Jahan is obviously known for the Taj Mahal, so it's no surprise that architecture plays a prominent role in the miniatures of his era. You see depictions of lavish palaces, intricate gardens, and of course those iconic bulbous domes.
It's like looking at blueprints for architectural masterpieces, but rendered with the same level of detail as a portrait or a flower study.
And don't forget the element of romance. Shah Jahan, after all, built the Taj Mahal as a testament to his love for Mumtaz Mahal. So you see that theme reflected in the miniatures as well. Couples in elegant gardens, lovers gazing into each other's eyes, all framed by that exquisite Mughal aesthetic.
It's like the whole empire was in love with love and they weren't afraid to show it. But as much as I'd love to stay lost in this world of miniature masterpieces, I am curious, did this tradition continue after Shah Jahan? Did it evolve at all?
Well, like all artistic traditions, Mughal miniature painting went through changes. Later, emperors continued to patronize the arts, but the style shifted a bit. There was more emphasis on portraiture. You start to see European influences creeping in.
Oh, interesting. So it's like those tiny windows into Mughal life started to reflect the changing world around them.
Exactly. And as the Mughal Empire itself declined in power, so too did its artistic traditions. But even though that classic Mughal miniature painting style eventually faded, its influence definitely lived on.
So it's like their impact rippled outward, leaving a lasting mark on Indian art and beyond.
Precisely. And when we look at those miniatures today, we're not just admiring pretty pictures, we're connecting with a rich history. It's a glimpse into a world that was both grand and intimate, powerful and delicate. It's a reminder that even in a vast empire, sometimes the most powerful stories are told in the smallest details.
And speaking of grand stories, I think it's time to shift our focus to something truly monumental, Mughal architecture.
From those iconic domes to those intricate gardens, it's a whole other layer of artistic brilliance we need to explore.
All right, let's do it. Bring on the marble, the sandstone, those incredible soaring structures.
Get ready to be wowed because we're about to step into a world where imagination meets engineering, where marble and sandstone transform into poems in stone.
Okay, I'm ready to be wowed. After all that talk about miniature paintings, I can only imagine what Mughal architecture has in store. Bring it on. The domes, the gardens, the whole shebang.
Get ready for sensory overload. Mughal architecture is all about grandeur, those incredible details, and this amazing blend of styles. You see Islamic influences, Persian obviously, and even bits of earlier Indian architecture woven in.
Yeah, our architecture of Mughal India source, it really highlights that fusion. It's like they took inspiration from everywhere and created something totally new.
Exactly. It wasn't just about aesthetics, though, you know? Every archway, every minaret, every detail, it was all designed to convey a message.
These were empire builders.
Yes. And their buildings had to reflect that sense of power, you know?
So not just pretty buildings, but statements.
Exactly. Think about those iconic domes, for instance. Yes, they're beautiful, no doubt, but they also symbolize the heavens, that connection to the divine. It's a key element in Islamic architecture.
Right.
And the Mughals took that idea and just ran with it. They created these massive, bulbous domes that dominate the skyline.
Like, look at how high our buildings reach. We're practically touching heaven.
Right. A bit of a power move, you could say. And they didn't just use any old dome either. They developed this distinctive style, often topped with a lotus motif, which, again, a nod to Indian traditions.
It's that layering of symbolism, that attention to detail. It's really what makes Mughal architecture so fascinating.
Absolutely. And it's everywhere. Okay, so we've got domes representing the heavens. What about those tall, slender towers? You always see them flanking the mosques.
You mean what are they called?
Minarets.
Minarets, yes.
Mm-hmm. Another borrowed element, essential for calling the faithful to prayer. But again, the Mughals, they elevated them, turned them into these elegant accents, emphasizing the verticality of their buildings.
It's like they were always striving for that wow factor,
Yeah.
but never sacrificing practicality, form and function in perfect harmony.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the decoration. Mughal buildings are covered in calligraphy, floral motifs, geometric patterns. It's almost overwhelming.
Yeah, our architecture book goes into detail about that Pietra dura inlay work. Isn't that where they embed semi-precious stones into the marble?
Yes, it's incredibly intricate, so time-consuming, which is why it was reserved for the most important buildings.
Yeah.
Imagine like entire walls covered in this floral mosaic, lapis lazuli, jade, carnelian. It's breathtaking.
It's like turning the building itself into a jewel box.
Yeah.
And speaking of materials, the Mughals, they seem to have a real thing for white marble, especially later on.
Ah, yes, white marble. It was associated with purity, light, and it was expensive. Using it extensively, like Shah Jahan did, really showed just how wealthy and powerful the empire was.
And of course, we can't talk about white marble without mentioning the Taj Mahal. Is it truly as stunning in person as all the pictures make it seem?
Honestly, photos just don't do it justice. It's more than just a tomb. It's a poem in stone, a testament to Shah Jahan's love for his wife, Mumtaz Mahal. The way the white marble seems to glow in different light, the perfect proportions, those intricate details, it's truly awe-inspiring.
Okay, now I really need to book that trip to India. But, focusing on the Taj Mahal, incredible as it is, almost feels like cheating.
How so?
Well, weren't there other impressive Mughal buildings, other architectural marvels that deserve some attention?
Oh, tons. The Red Fort in Delhi, for example, that was the Mughal capital for centuries.
Hmm.
A sprawling complex of palaces, gardens, mosques, and it's mostly red sandstone, which shows how material use kind of evolved over time, right?
So red sandstone for the early Mughals, white marble for the later ones.
It's a simplification, but yeah, generally, yes. The early Mughal structures, like Humayun's tomb, also in Delhi, they used a lot of red sandstone, which was readily available and had been used in earlier Indian architecture. So it was kind of a way of connecting with existing traditions.
Makes sense. But then, as the empire grew in wealth,
Hmm.
in confidence, they switched to the more luxurious white marble to really showcase their power.
Exactly. And don't forget about those incredible gardens. The Charbo, with its 4 quadrants and water channels, it wasn't just a design element, it represented paradise on Earth.
Right. We talked about that earlier. Those gardens really were almost like miniature versions of the empire itself.
How so?
Well, they were orderly, beautiful, and totally controlled.
Ah, I see your point. And just like the empire, Mughal architecture wasn't static. It evolved, incorporated new ideas, sometimes even blended with pre-existing Indian styles.
Like that fascinating example from our book, the Jami Masjid in Ajmer,
Hmm.
built by Akbar.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. It's a mosque, right? Clearly Islamic in its function. But look closer and you'll see these carved pillars, decorative motifs that are distinctly Hindu or Jain in style.
It's almost like Akbar was saying, look, we can all exist together. Even our architecture can be a blend of our different traditions.
A powerful message, especially for a ruler who was known for his religious tolerance. And that's what I find so captivating about Mughal art and architecture. It's not just about beauty, it's about history, culture, politics, philosophy. It's all woven together.
So it's like these buildings are still speaking to us centuries later, telling us stories about the people who built them, the empire they created, and the legacy they left behind.
And that legacy continues to influence art, architecture, even garden design today. The Mughal era might be over, but its impact is very much alive.
Well, I'd say this has been a truly deep dive. We've gone from those intimate miniature paintings to the monumental architecture, and honestly, I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
There's always more to explore, more layers to uncover. But hopefully this has given you a taste of the incredible artistic and cultural richness of the Mughal era.
It's definitely given me a serious case of wanderlust. To our listeners, if you ever get the chance to experience Mughal art and architecture in person, don't hesitate. It's a journey worth taking.
And until then, keep exploring, keep learning, keep diving deep into this fascinating world of history and culture. There's always something new to discover.